This is Aussie Mac Zone. We'll cover everything Apple, including Macs, iPhones, iPads, and more. All this from an Aussie perspective. Sit back, relax, and insert yourself into the zone. The Aussie Mac Zone.
Hi everybody, welcome to show 193 Aussie Mac Zone this week, I should say. It's presented by athwebhosting.com.au. So you got to remember, 24/7 ticket support, cPanel, the industry standard, 250 scripts, including WordPress and Joomla. They accept PayPal as well as other cards, and I'm trying to get him to accept Apple Pay. Instant activation, auto setup 24/7, free setup, domain registration, and 99.95% uptime with affordable and competitive plans starting at $5.95 per month when paid annually. So we've got Garth here with us again finally. Thank you.
Hey Michael, how's it going, mate?
Excellent, my friend. And Nick's here controlling the world in the background.
Keep it spinning, Nick. I don't want it to stop, all right? You've got the whole world on your shoulders there. What the? Yeah.
So we finally got our WWDC with something to talk about.
Oh, and wasn't it a beauty?
Yes, I thought it was great. The only thing, it's the first time I've seen one start late, and it also ran over the normal 2 hours. Not that that's a set time, but it was just so much to talk about.
Yeah, well,
never stopped.
That's right. And they were hurrying through too.
Started off with they had a lot to say. They started off with a great little movie that was aimed directly at developers, which I thought was pretty good, and the developer community were pretty happy. And Tim came on stage and said it was the best and biggest worldwide developers conference ever. They've now got 16 million registered developers worldwide, and 3 million joined last year alone. And then we were lucky enough to have another 10-year-old Australian app developer who's already got 6 apps on the App Store.
Bloody hell.
Was showing off. Annoying, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And then they had an 82-year-old, which I think was Japanese lady, who published her first app this year. And they said they had so much to talk about that they just said Apple's doing great, and that's all the updates that you have to worry about that time allowed.
Thank goodness.
So the big news, they started off amazingly with tvOS.
They get this more stuff out of the way nice and early, right?
Yeah. That must have been to appease Amazon. So now that Amazon Prime is coming back onto Apple TV, we assume that Apple TV will be sold on Amazon again, we're guessing?
Yeah, well, we didn't really get much in the way of a tvOS update, other than, yes, you can have Amazon. Now moving on to watchOS. That was pretty much it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they did mention the TV as another thing later on, which will come up. It was spread apart. They started talking about things, and then they said, "Oh, we'll talk about more about that later." And then they talked about some more, and then we'll talk about that later. And so it was. They're obviously very joined together at the moment, if I put it that way.
Mm.
So, was there anything major that caught your eye in the
whole keynote or TV?
Yeah, just in the keynote, yeah.
In the keynote, generally, no. Well, I missed the first. To be honest, I didn't wake up till about 3:30, so I missed the first couple, the TV and the watch. So I picked up a little bit here and there since then. But overall, it was. There's a few there's a few nods to the developers throughout the keynote, I think.
Yeah.
All the AR stuff and the ML machine learning stuff. That app developers are going to go crazy with all of that stuff. So it's good to see that we hadn't completely gone to let's just make it a standard keynote. It was still a developer's keynote, I think.
Yes.
And as you said, it started off that way as well. And that held throughout the event. Firstly, iOS, a file app. We have a file app.
Yes.
That, I think that's kind of awesome.
That's pretty big, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I am looking forward to putting watchOS 4 on there just to see what is different there. I've already got iOS 11 on the phone, but I haven't had much of a chance to look at it yet.
You're a trusting person.
I am. Straight in, mate. What's the point? What's the point of dilly-dallying?
Yeah, well, I was waiting till the end of the month, yes.
No, we've got And one question I had after watching the keynote, it was in one of the slides, but it wasn't made clear during the audio anyway. And that was all the discussion around the iPad, and they spoke about iOS 11 and iPhone, and then they talked about the iPad, and during that they introduced the File app. I thought, oh no, is it only going to be for iPad? And I was stressed that it was only going to be for iPad, and then on my iPhone, there's the File app.
There it is. Yes.
So I don't know. Well, I guess we just tackle them in the order they did, 1 through 6. We've already, I reckon, go pretty quickly through some of them because like as we said already, Apple TV. The only thing we really got, a little bit of navigation stuff here and there, was Amazon coming. And the amount of airtime, by the sounds of it, that was just part of the deal with Amazon to give them a bit of airtime to get the Prime app on the TV. So if we move on to watchOS 4, few new screens, few new watch faces. The Siri watch face does interest me. That will be on my watch in the morning, I hope.
Yeah.
And what do you think? That sounds interesting to me, that one.
And the Siri one's one that should get better day after day after day because it's based on your routine more than appears to be based on your routine more than what's in your messages, what's in your based on where your location is and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I hope so. So I as I said, I missed that part of the keynote and haven't played with it yet. So
that's right. Yeah.
I'm guessing, from what I've heard, though, it will try and present the most relevant complications to you for your location and so forth, and the ones you use. Yeah. So for those spots, do you need to keep picking the ones you want? Ideally, it would be the only watch face I used. It would always have the weather in the top left-hand corner. It would always have my step count up there because I always look at those fellas. And depending on the rest of it, it'll have my work calendar or my Next There app, depending on where I am,
And that was basically just scrolling up and down.
Okay.
Showing you your different things, yeah?
Yep.
They gave you a couple of things, was the monthly challenges now for you, or instead of just closing the rings, there's little celebration vignettes that they show when you're actually closing your rings. Mm-hmm. The swimming part of the fitness part of the swimming part of the fitness side of it's set up so that it knows when you stop at one end and then change a stroke, for example, and they've also got it set up for high intensity workouts or multiple workouts in a single session. And one of the big ones that you may not have heard is starting this spring Australian times, the gym equipment people are adding this part to it that you can just hold your watch there and you can start sharing data between the gym equipment and your watch. So when you're looking at the screen of the gym equipment, it'll give you your heart rate, for example, and then the gym equipment will give you your distance, so that when it goes onto your health app, you've got your distance that you're covered, which is not normally there.
That sounds fantastic. Marrying those two up.
Yeah.
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 And
that,
so
again,
we're
that'll
going
be
to
a
have to.
time that'll happen over the couple of years.
Yeah, we're going to have to
because
search around for
gyms
the gyms.
won't buy the equipment. Yeah.
The appropriately. It's like trying to find a car with Apple Pay car with Apple Pay, car with with that Apple Car interface. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a new music app on the watch, and there was a new news app on the watch, and
Okay. Yep. News
you can
app.
also get music news. Yeah, so it'll come up with some of your news that you've asked it to sort of tell you, and then you can click on it to read later, or depending on what you're doing. And you can also get it so you can say, right, I'm going to start my workout now, and get the music to start with you. So it just goes sort of beep, 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 and then you start running and your music starts at the same time.
Yep.
And there's a couple of other things. They've got native core Bluetooth, and the glucose, they didn't demonstrate a glucose band, but they are joining with the company it's called Dexcom, DXCOM. Now they make big dollar glucose readers that, pardon me a minute.
What's that noise
Sorry.
that keeps
When
going?
people, it's me coughing.
Oh no, the
Are you getting a click in the background when I do it? Oh yeah, that it must be turned on. The clicking sound must be there. Sorry.
okay, that's all good.
Yeah. The Dexcom is a glucose thing that actually gets implanted in your body,
Okay.
and they're not cheap either. They're about $1,300 a quarter for these little things that get attached to your body, and and that will also be released this spring our time. What else was there? Yeah, some new faces, which is Woody and Jesse and Buzz Lightyear.
To infinity and beyond.
Or a kaleidoscope face.
Yeah, I don't know. Slightly more interesting than Mickey and Minnie Mouse, but not much, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. But that was about it. I can't think of anything else that was...
No, plenty to be going on with anyway.
No.
Sort of more of a refinement.
But yeah, that was...
It seems.
The gym equipment. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, though, that's just up to the gyms to take up the kind of equipment that will support that protocol.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see how many people take that up.
Yeah.
And the next one was Mac OS.
Mac OS. Now, it was, I don't know, once again, there wasn't a heap in here, was there? There was lots of little things, but nothing earth-shattering. No, other than the fact that we're changing to APFS, I guess.
Yes, yeah, that's one big one.
That's a bit of a biggie. But in terms of major changes, well, it's a High Sierra, isn't it? It's, once we got past all the marijuana jokes.
Yeah, they sent
it's a refinement, following along with...
It is, yeah.
Leopard to snow leopard and line to mountain lion and so forth, yeah.
Yeah. And they were talking about the deep technologies that are involved now.
Once again, the machine learning stuff that was available, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. And Metal... What are we up to? Metal 4 now or something? Metal 3 or 4? Or?
Metal 2.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead a bit here.
Yeah, Metal 2.
I thought we were doing the 2019 keynote. Oh. Yes, Metal 2. But it...
Yeah, so with the latest... the next version of High Sierra, as you said, that we're talking about, Safari becomes the world's fastest desktop browser, and it'll be 80% faster than Chrome.
With certain things. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the big ones they showed off was the autoplay blocking in Safari to stop ads or those auto-playing news stories when you go to a news site, etc.
How good is that?
Yeah.
That is just awesome. Really.
That'll keep keep Leo happy because that gets him all the time.
Well, yes, indeed. Keep me happy too.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's another
Yes.
one that's coming to iOS as well, I believe. Within Safari on iOS, I think, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which will be awesome.
Hmm.
And it's very simple. You just click the play button and play the ad if that's what you actually want to see.
Should you actually want to play the ad, go for your live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Or sometimes there's valuable content in the actual website itself that is set to autoplay that I'm sure that will block as well.
Yeah. Or there's also intelligent tracking prevention.
Yes, that sounded good too.
Those ads that track you after you've looked up new underwear, and then you get 400,000 underwear ads.
I don't know, Michael.
And the biggest complaint with that is you look for an ad for underwear, you go and buy the underwear, so you don't need them anymore, and you still get 400 ads a week about underwear.
Apparently so.
After you've already bought them, it just doesn't keep track of it.
No. So what you're asking for is more tracking. You want them to know when you've got the underwear. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, yes. That's where it's got to get to.
Yeah.
It can now tell me in, 14 months' time I need new underwear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be good to see. This is all to do with their machine learning that's going on at the moment. And, it's all to do with, like they say, the deep technologies. They've done some changes to Mail and Spotlight and Split View. And they're using 35% less disk space for photos, for example.
Mm.
Their photos has got improved faces recognition, and the biggest thing, it's going to sync across your devices.
Thank goodness for that too. Now there's
Finally,
yeah,
yes.
That's one that yeah.
So they must have worked out how to do it while still maintaining your privacy.
Well, surely they can sync everything out. They can sync your passwords across everything. They can surely sync that data. So yes.
Yeah. And even things like when you do you do an edit in Pixelmator for a picture, it'll actually save that back as well, which it hadn't been doing.
Okay.
Now, you talked about the fundamentals, which is Apple file system will be the default system. So we're hoping that goes as well as it did with iOS. That'll be interesting because a lot of the apps, it's to do with case-sensitive file names, etc., which we don't even think about normally, but they become case-sensitive now.
Mm.
So if you have show in capitals and show in lowercase, they're two separate files.
Yeah.
So,
whether that will be user-facing, though, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like you said, as long as it goes as smoothly as it did on iOS, that was that couldn't have been easier.
Yeah.
That couldn't have been better. Just a complete swap from underneath without any issue whatsoever. So,
yeah.
They did their little...
The video is going to be... Yeah, go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, they did their little demo there with, copying large files from one place to another, which seemed like it was a pretty...
How much faster it was.
How much faster it was. when realistically, with APFS, all they're doing is saying, okay, there's 2 pointers now to the same file, one from this location, one from that location, so...
That's right.
We weren't actually copying anything anywhere, it was just a... But, as far as the user's concerned, that's what's happening. You're copying that from there. It's, yeah. So...
Yep. Now, video built in will become H.265 instead of H.264 because it's got 40% better at decoding.
Now, that's
the graphics
as
will
well
be
as
metal
really.
Yeah. And they're going to actually use that to also do your photos, for example. They're going to be stored in a separate format instead of JPEGs now.
Okay.
but you'll be able to share that out properly. Then they talked about, graphics being Metal 2, which is 10 times faster. They use it for machine learning. It's focusing. You can even have an external GPU system connected to your MacBook Pro.
Yeah, that was strange, wasn't it?
It was just a little slide in that they had there for a minute.
Yeah. They're selling an external GPU enclosure.
Yeah.
I don't know, that was kind of a weird product announcement. I didn't even hardly take that in.
A lot of people have called for it, but a lot of people have called for it.
Yeah, apparently so.
Pardon me. Sorry about my throat.
That's all right.
Now, also, big was Steam, Unity, and the Unreal VR systems will be working on the Mac. And they start as a public beta later this month. The public beta will release later this month and works on all systems that are already using Sierra.
Yep. Now, it was carefully how they worded all of that, isn't it? It was, finally, I guess, people who are wanting to create that kind of content can use the OS 10, whereas before they had to use Windows. On the Mac side, we just didn't have the appropriate support. So it's good that
for the VR stuff. Yeah,
it's good that they've jumped in on that now and really provided a platform that they can use by the sounds of it. Yeah,
big time too, big way, which we'll talk about again in a minute. Sorry. My voice is dying again.
That's all right. Hit that mute button, man. That's all good. You have to.
Sorry, friends. So scratchy mouth for it. But then they talked about new iMacs.
Oh, new iMac for you, new iMac for me, new iMac for everyone, wasn't there? There's lots of new iMacs.
Yeah, it was great. So the new iMacs will be 43% brighter with 10% 10-bit dithering. They got the Kaby Lake CPUs. We can upgrade the RAM on the 21.5 to 32 gig, and the 27 up to 64. The 27's a standard with the Fusion drive and 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports. And they also had some big GPU bumps, being 80% faster on the base model 21.5, for example, with 4K discrete graphics are 3 times faster. And the 27-inch, they got Radeon 500 series GPUs, 5.5 teraflops of data they can shift through now. And then they did a really good VR demo by Industrial Light and Magic.
Yep.
At 90 frames per second.
Yep.
Instead of the standard 60. And then they talked about the pricing. Now in Australia, the 21.5 iMac 4K starts at 18. It will start at. Oh, it does start because it released today. $18.99. The 27-inch iMac with 5K Retina starts at $2,699. Then they talked about some new. They just talked about it as so it was nothing. It just said so. The MacBook Pros have also got Kaby Lake processor. And the MacBook Air will also be getting a speed bump for its processor without changing the processor.
Yes, that was good. I was glad to see that. The MacBook Air is not dead yet.
No.
That's good.
And do you think the reason they just talk quickly about the MacBook Pro getting the updates is just because it's so new and they just didn't want to upset the people that have just bought them? Or?
No, they just had enough to fit in. Had to fit it all in. And they, they're egging at the bit to get to the next one, which is the iMac Pro.
Yes. So at the end of the year, we will get a new iMac Pro, which is in the grey colour instead of the aluminium colour. It's the most powerful Mac ever with workstation class components. It's got a dual fan system, 8-core or 10-core or up to 18-core Xeon processors.
Yes.
It's got a Radeon Vega graphics going up to 11 teraflops and up to 128 gig of memory and up to a 4 terabyte SSD and 10 gigabyte Ethernet.
Can you imagine how much that top of the range would cost? That's just money on monies on monies.
Yeah, they said an equivalent PC, the config was $7,000 but they're selling the Mac for $4,999. So that makes it about $7,000 Australian.
And that'll be for the 8-core Xeon.
Yeah.
But 8-core Xeon. Who? It's just like I don't think I need that for podcast production somehow. So there's no justification there.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Definitely.
Glenn. Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah. 10 gigabyte Ethernet would be nice. Yeah.
Well,
if for where they're going to be using it, shifting around, like at Industrial Light and Magic, shifting around these new virtual reality.
Those assets will be huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just going to talk about Aussie Tech Radio at aussietechradio.com. I had a quick listen before and it's working like a beauty.
Beautiful.
And don't forget our Aussie Tech Security podcast and our friends over at our award-winning Aussie Tech Heads podcast.
Absolutely. Well, be interested to hear their wrap-up of this too.
Yeah, well, they're not too biased, I don't think.
No.
They accept that we're superior and they just put up with it, don't they?
Is that how it works? I'm not sure.
I'll just rub it in, that's all.
Terrible.
Yes.
Oh, it was so
and then
boring.
we came up to iOS.
Yes.
So we've got 96% satisfaction rate, 86% using iOS 10, whereas Android 7 is only on 7% of devices. And then Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sure there's a way of turning that off.
Doesn't matter.
They talked about turning it up to iOS 11.
Yes.
And they started off straight into the messaging app with the new layout on the bottom with the apps and stickers just straight across there, across the bottom of your messaging app. And your conversations are now synchronized between your devices with end-to-end encryption.
And stored in iCloud. So all those messages that have got photos attached that you haven't bothered copying across into your...
To delete or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, are all just stored in iCloud and pulled down like iCloud Photo Library. So that was quite nice.
Yeah.
And they really did need to redesign that interface to iMessages as well with the apps, because that was a nightmare. Difficult to use.
It was good the way they did that. Yeah. So simple when you think about it, isn't it? Just lift it up a little bit and it's just there. And now we can pay each other using Apple Pay.
Now I'm interested to see how this actually works here in Australia. For me, I'm not sure, because I'm linked to a credit card. So I wonder if I use that, would that then be a cash advance on my credit card? And I'm guessing it probably would be. I'd need to get it linked to a debit card, I think.
Yeah, and it was also, they talked about it becoming, like if I pay you, it goes onto this cash card of yours that you then can take the money out and put in your bank.
You could transfer it over to your account, which almost puts them in the space of being a financial institution. And if they have to go through that process in every market, did you see any information on whether it was coming to Australia or if there was any sort of geo-locking on this one?
I haven't seen anything on that yet.
Yeah,
but there was talk just a little while ago about Apple and Visa were in discussion.
So be
interesting.
See, once again, that's you wouldn't want it to become a cash advance on your credit card accidentally, would you? And for them to be holding money in Apple Pay on my wallet, that, like I said, that makes them a financial institution, which means a lot more red tape for them to go through in each market. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see how this one works here in Australia specifically, once we get a little bit more information on it.
Yeah, just talking about Apple Pay just for a moment. The checkout had a little segment about Apple Pay the other day, where a customer used Apple Pay and just tapped it on the terminal to pay for the goods, which were $30, and when she got a bank statement, it was like $30.65 or whatever, because they'd taken a percentage out. Because if she'd had sorry, this wasn't Apple Pay, this was just a card, because she had the option of actually putting it in the machine, so it was just a card. So when she tapped it, she got one charge. When she put it in, she could say, when she tapped it, it assumed it was a credit card, so it took the credit, and the fees are greater for credit.
Yes.
Than actually putting it in. So you just need to be aware of that.
Yeah, okay.
It's up to the so when you're tapping with Apple Pay, it may show up as a credit and cost you actually more with more fees, which is ridiculous.
Sometimes you have your, you can have your card set up to be credit or debit or whatever, and you it can have multiple accounts on the one card.
But you can't do that with Apple Pay.
No.
Because when you do the tap, it doesn't actually give you the choice to say this is my credit card or this is my debit card.
With Apple Pay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
When you do a tap.
If you've got multiple cards, you set a default card.
Okay.
So, like you can just go and wave your watch at the thing and it will use your default card. But if you do the double tap or the double tap on your phone, I'm pretty sure it will. You can have multiple cards attached there with Apple Pay.
Yeah, but if I've only got one card, so I've got a debit card.
Yeah. It will have to use that one card, yeah.
Yeah.
But it can't use it as a
credit. But it may charge you more because it uses it basically...
as a Visa card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to a debit card.
Yeah.
Even though they process the money straight away and all that sort of stuff. But as far as the retailer's system is concerned, it was a credit job.
Yep.
So just be aware of that. It's just one of those little things.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about a lot of money, but it can add up. Yes.
Yeah.
So we got to the conversations of being synchronised and kept in iCloud with end-to-end encryption. And finally, they say it'll be in 50% of retailers in the US by Christmas.
Apple Pay in general?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Now, Siri gets used 375 million devices monthly. They've done a Siri voice upgrade, new visual upgrade, new translation beta, Siri kit for developers so it can be used in more and more apps.
Yeah.
You can use it for task management because it's understanding context and what you want next on device learning synced across devices.
I'll be interested to see which particular context they've added. Because you mentioned task. I'm not sure which, if any, other context they've added to Siri. Because previously we had the pay one. There's like 3 or 4, wasn't there? So it'd be interesting to see what other apps can integrate with Siri.
Yeah.
Messaging and so forth.
Yep. It's very hard to know, and they're being obviously in the next few days they'll be very more specific when you go to that actual learning session.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now the camera, they talked about having 1 trillion that with a T photos taken per year, and So they're going to start using H.265, which is called HEIF instead of JPEG to reduce the size. And they were demonstrating, when you get your memories, for example, and you can look at them in landscape, but you can now look at them in portrait mode quite well. They've got improved low-level light, and the depth API will be going out to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And in photos, when you do the live photo, you can actually say, I want this frame to be the photo, as well as various effects in live photos. So you can actually have people jumping in the pool, out of the pool, in the pool, out of the pool. Yeah.
And it was, once again, that's another thing, like the ML and the AR kit that developers will love having access to the depth stuff in photos. That alone, developers are going to enjoy being able to use those APIs. So, along with the face recognition stuff, the face tracking and that sort of landmark stuff that Apple uses in their own apps, opening that API up to developers as well.
Yeah, big for developers. It was good. Now, Control Center has got a big change as well. It's now a single page, and you can get more information when you're using 3D Touch for those devices that can use it.
Well, the only experience I've had with that yet is it crashed. So crashed my phone. So I'll try that again later.
You live on the edge, you fall.
Indeed.
Yeah, but it was good just the way you lift it up and just drag it back down, and you can...
Yes.
Yeah, you can still see what was on your lock screen really quickly, because that was the thing is... Yeah, so you just drag it back down, and there's the messages that were on your lock screen, for example. Another interesting one, in maps, for example, they're now doing detailed floor plans of malls and of airports. Just, to show you, give you more and more information.
And the quicker the better for us, for us blindies who use them for navigation, because that'll be really helpful. Yeah.
How to get to Woolworths from Big W.
Exactly. Because Woolworths is sold out of the whatever.
Yeah. And the airports, which it had where security was, etc.
Yep.
It's also now going to show you the speed limit up in the top left-hand corner of the screen when you're looking at the maps, and giving you lane guidance for when you need to get off the freeway, for example. It tells you what lane to be in. And
about time they had lane guidance. That was a missing feature that should have been there. Yeah, that's good that it's
coming. I think this next one's a big one, especially in Australia, which is you can now have Do Not Disturb while driving, and and it just gives you a blank screen, nothing.
Yep.
Or you can have the maps going, for example, but it won't let you answer a phone. It won't give you any messages. But if someone texts you, they'll get an auto reply to say that you're on Do Not Disturb while you're driving. But if they get that, then they can resend the message but put urgent with it, and that'll actually show up on your screen. So if it really is serious...
Yeah. Put the onus back on the person sending the message to actually override the situation. Yeah.
Yeah, because in New South Wales, for example, now... P-platers aren't allowed to use the phone at all while they're driving.
Okay. Yep.
Like, nothing. So, then HomeKit. Speakers. So, you can use... they can update it to AirPlay 2, which will allow you to, for example, to use Apple TV and have that sending the same music throughout your house. So if you've got 3 Apple TVs, you'll be able to use that for playing the same music or the same podcast throughout your house. Mm-hmm. Or if you've got a party going, your guests can come in and just add to a party playlist, so they can put songs in the party playlist, which is I know that there's an app out there that does that sort of thing. part of me that it also lets you share Bluetooth speakers as well. So each person can bring their own Bluetooth speaker, and there is an app that lets you share that and then lets you create party playlists that people can add to.
Yep.
But cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that AirPlay 2, so that I can have the same podcast whether I'm upstairs, downstairs, wherever I am in the house.
Yes.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Now, Apple Music, 27 million paid subscribers, and it actually shows you now what your friends have been listening to. Of course, that's assuming that they permit to share that information with you, but it's just got, it might have a bit of album art and then have Nick's photo down the bottom and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be for the new stuff, and the old stuff would have my photo down the bottom.
And that's a feature that a lot of people will love, I think, that one.
Yes, yeah. Well, it makes it very social too. And there's Music Kit now for the developers to do with Apple Music, to make things more accessible for them all.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how they're going to use that, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. And then, what happened? Sorry. The App Store. There's an App Store app. So they get 500 million people weekly visit the App Store. There's been 180 billion apps downloaded altogether, and that doesn't include updates, for example. Yeah. There's been $70 billion paid to date, and 30% of that was last year alone. So they also have to do with the App Store itself. They've got faster app review times. You can have phase releases, so it might release, some to half America and then another half America and then New Zealand and Australia, basically around the world, for example, and that way it doesn't put 100%
load on people's servers.
Load on your system, yeah.
Yep.
The app has got a new redesign, which look pretty trick. There's a Today tab, a Games tab, an Apps tab, and they've got very good new product pages, which is another thing that the developers will be able to listen to sorry, and learn about this week while they're there, is how to update their product pages. And they look really spoofy because you can have reviews, you can have a lot more videos on how to do it.
Now,
so that was pretty special.
It's a shame they didn't mention anything about this search, because it would be nice to see them update search a bit in the App Store, because it can be a bit hit and miss at times.
Yeah, didn't they say it was... I can't remember. I thought they said it was faster or something.
I didn't hear them mention search at all. I was thinking, I don't really care if you update the App Store app. Just make the search work better. So maybe I missed it.
Yeah. So then they did a demo of the new app itself. Then they talked about the core technologies with machine learning and a vision API and a natural language API, and the core ML on device, which is the machine learning on device. And then they brought up augmented reality with AR Kit, which gives you fast, stable motion tracking, plane estimation with basic boundaries, ambient light estimation, scale estimation, support for Unity, Unreal and Scene Kit, or Xcode app templates.
And some pretty cool demos on that one as well, wasn't there? It was,
yes, there were.
It's all pretty amazing stuff, that really.
Yeah, it was good. And just that will give them, when they introduce iOS 11, overnight they'll become the largest AR platform in the world. Just like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So lots of new games and other things that AR gets used for, just besides games.
Yeah, absolutely. we'll soon see what. Once again, like I said, at the beginning, there's been quite a lot in this keynote that developers will really love.
Yeah. Yep. Now we talked about the iPad, which was a magical piece of glass. That's from Greg Joswiak. So the iPad Pro 9.7 is the most popular of the iPad Pros, and there'll be a new iPad Pro which will replace that one, and it'll be a 10.5 inch. And why 10.5? Well, part of it is it gives you a full size on screen or a Magic Keyboard. So it gives you a full size keyboard basically. You've got new display with HDR video, ProMotion, which is 120 Hz refresh rate with 20 millisecond latency, and also dynamic speed changes. So if you're not watching a video that needs 120 Hz and you're only looking at a web page, they changed the refresh rate of the screen, which gives you a much better battery life.
Yes.
The advantage of the 20 millisecond latency is for when you're using the pencil, for example. The A10 Fusion chip, which is 30% CPU and 40% GPU, and they're just saying it's 500 times faster than the original iPad, which is
sorry.
That was only a few years ago. Really.
Yeah, I know. It's a little while now, but it's yeah.
And then a company, Affinity Photo, which is an app that was released today. They did a demo with that, which was pretty cool for making they showed you actually making a movie poster ad, things you can do with that. And it starts at 64 gig or 256 gig or 512 gig.
I know, 512 gig,
and
that's
some of the other
crazy,
things,
isn't it?
which are part of iOS 11. Yeah. But if it's supposed to be replacing a computer, which is what they want eventually, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
But the things like multitasking slide over, yeah. They do say it's the computer of the future, don't they? Isn't that the way they put the iPad Pro out there? And
I don't know. Maybe they do, but... Oh, what's that?
But I can't wait now, because the few things that they showed, which was multitasking slide over, multi-image selecting while dragging, doing the tagging, there's a new app switcher, drag and drop, there's a new app called Files, which we talked about, which supports iCloud and other off-site file storage systems like Dropbox, etc.
Yep.
That will make it. I can't wait to try those out.
I know. I know.
On the one specific thing that I do, the reason I don't use the iPad Pro as opposed to using the Mac.
Mm-hmm.
So then they did the demo of the iOS 11 on the iPad with the demo Apple Pencil, which was pretty cool. Your handwritten notes are now searchable, which is part of machine learning. And it has a document scanner, which you now just take a photo, it aligns it all for you. You can then just write on it, sign it, scan it, send it off.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay, so if you can do OCR on the text that you write into it, can you do OCR on the text that you take photos of? So if it's a handwritten document, are you going to be able to OCR that? That would be kind of awesome. Yeah.
So again, the beta will be available at the end of the month. For iOS 11 was available today, but the general beta,
public beta.
Public beta. Thank you. That's the right word. And it'll be released date of spring our time. Then they had a video with the iOS 11 and the new iPad. And then they started with one last thing.
One last round thing.
Yeah. So then we had, which was Apple Music. Try it again. Apple Music. 40 million songs in your pocket. So they're talking about reinvent home music. with a breakthrough home speaker, and had things that it had to do with just rock the house, be spatially aware, and be a smart musicologist with Siri. And they called it the HomePod.
Yes, they did. Can't say I'm a huge fan of the name, but, you know, we got used to iPad. Yeah. That sounds fine now.
Yeah. And it is a pod.
Yes, it is a pod. It's very poddish.
It even looks like, yeah, with its meshy sort of outside, it looks very...
poddy.
Plain, like a flower pod or something.
Yeah. So
I think it's 7 inches tall. It's got 7 beam-forming array tweeters and a 4-inch woofer, the A8 chip, and 6 microphone arrays. And it adjusts the audio sound depending on where you place it. And the way they demoed it was, if you've got you put it, you know, on a cabinet in front of a wall, the sound, so the background sounds, we actually push out the back so it reflects off the wall.
Yeah. Whereas
foreground sounds will be coming straight at you, for example.
Yeah. That looked pretty cool. Be interesting to see how well that works. Yeah.
And then again, if you put 2 of them around, it actually works that out and understands that as well. And
that's a big feature that a lot of the other ones don't have too. The ability to go to multi-speaker. Yeah. That's where you take it out of the realm of, you know, your Alexa and those kind of devices, and closer to the Sonos type thing. You know, in terms of it being actually a really good speaker, not just another Bluetooth speaker with, you know, voice assistant.
And because it's Siri-based, you can ask it about music, news, unit conversion, your messages, reminders, podcasts, alarms, translation, stocks, general knowledge, weather, traffic, sports, or home. I'm wondering how it's going to know whose reminders it's supposed to tell you or who messages it's supposed to tell you.
I know, that's my big question too. How does it handle the messaging stuff?
Yes.
Because, you know, it's fine if you live alone, but otherwise you want to make sure the right messages go to the right place. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also got a little, say it knows you're talking to it, it's got this little coloured thing that's actually on the top of it so you can see it. And it's also going to be a HomeKit base station.
Yes.
And the best part is, when they release it in December, it's going to be in US, UK, and Australia.
In Australia, exactly.
So it's $349 US. So what's that, about 500 Australian?
Probably around the 500 Australian mark. Could be a few Christmas presents around the place, I think.
Yes. And then they talked about tomorrow they're having a around the fireplace conversation, and they're having Michelle Obama over to have the discussion. So that was interesting.
It'd be interesting to see what that turns out to be about.
Yeah. Is that making a political statement, or is it just because of the coding for girls, etc.?
I would say so. Yeah.
Being
could be. I don't know. Could be both, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, it's interesting that it went over it was about 2.25 hours. And it started a few minutes late. Yeah.
Well, they had a fair bit to get through with the new devices and so forth. Hardware as well as software.
Yeah. And like the demo, you couldn't give the augmented reality demos less time, I don't think, because it wouldn't have been quite as obvious. And it was just interesting, just the way they were moving it around and showing you. It wasn't something that could have been pre-programmed onto the computer.
Oh, no, I'm sure it was all fine in that respect. I mean, the two guys from Lucasfilms, or, you know, Industrial Light and Sound, or whatever they called it, clearly weren't very, weren't the caliber of presenters that that the others were. But the actual what they're presenting was awesome.
That's right. Yeah. So, and besides that, they're in their realm. They'll be able to go back and talk to all their mates.
Yep.
One-on-one.
Exactly.
And explain how it was done.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's very.
It was interesting. It was. Is that because Lucas has now got a relationship with Disney that they got those preview stuff?
Yeah, no idea. No idea how that's.
But yeah, cool as.
Yeah.
And they were talking about like they can't wait to actually get it in their apps and get it out to people. So.
Well, they can't wait to get the apps out.
Yeah.
Make a bit of revenue. So that's the point. Yeah.
Does that mean we're going to get Star Wars to bomb the crap out of Pikachu in augmented reality?
Now that would be worth buying, wouldn't it? Oh dear. No, it was overall, I think it was a pretty jam-packed keynote with some really interesting stuff. As I said, I'll put on watch OS 4 overnight and have a bit of a play with that, and next week I'll have played with iOS 11 a little bit more, and we'll see what we find out between now and then. I don't think I'll be updating to the High Sierra just yet. We'll give that a little bit before we introduce that beta.
Give that a little bit, yeah.
Onto my Mac.
Yeah, because that'll be hard. That may not even be able to go back unless you do it from scratch.
With the APFS, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
So we'll give that a day or two, a week or two, let's say, maybe even a month before we introduce that one.
Yeah.
And check all the apps that I use regularly, make sure they're all compatible.
But yeah, I'll probably give you a week's head start, and then I would think about putting iOS 11 on my iPad Pro, because I can't wait to try that.
Yeah, you've got a lot of new stuff to go.
Just to see how it goes with my...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got lots of new ways of managing all the file management and the app switching, all that sort of stuff was really cool. So that should be good.
Because as I said, I use it to duplicate a folder and then change the numbers on the folder and then go and just change 3 bits of information on the document within the folder.
Yep.
Now on a Mac that takes seconds, and on an iPad it might take a minute and a half. You know? But that's... If you're doing 30 of them, it takes forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the best I've got at the moment.
That's the keynote.
Yeah.
That's the keynote. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out over the next week or so. Like we said earlier, get a little bit more detail about some of this stuff.
And maybe some press releases that they sneak out and things.
Yeah. And I'll go in and check out the App Store soon and have a good look at the specs on that they've updated for all the machines.
Yeah. That's all there.
Yeah.
There. It's up there now.
I haven't had a look yet.
Yeah.
So
yeah, all the Australian, because it was down, the Australian store was down while the keynote was on.
Okay. So. Very good.
And the HomePod is up there as well. So
not available for pre-order yet, I assume.
No.
No. Well. No. Might have to keep an eye out and keep a Google alert or something out on that one.
Yeah.
So they can get in early, because it'll be like the AirPods, I think. I've got a feeling now it'll be like the AirPods. If you don't get in straight away, you won't be getting them for ages.
That's right. Yeah. Yes, that's one thing to keep in mind. So we just like to thank our sponsors, which is ATH Web Hosting, and also our friends at Aussie Tech Radio. No, that's right. So it's just, don't forget athwebhosting.com.au, and then go from there.
Absolutely.
And all the other things you can find. Don't forget we've got our own webpage, which is aussiemaczone.com.au as well.
And in Apple News.
Apple News, yeah. Facebook. We're getting around a bit now, so that's good.
Go.
Thank you very much, Garth.
Thank you, Michael. Go and pour over those details a bit more and get a good week's sleep ready for next week.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick.
No worries, Michael.
All the best, everyone.
Good night.